How does a gigantic 5-ton Buddhist bell come to life? The answer lies in an ancient process that hasn't changed in centuries. The result is a unique instrument destined to ring for over 1,000 years. There is no industrial process that can replicate this, and only 6 workshops in the world can make them. It takes several months to bring this rare instrument to completion, a journey demanding surgical precision. Today, we dive into one of these foundries where we will discover every secret of how these magnificent bells are made.
In South Korea, the creation of traditional Buddhist temple bells is an incredibly rare craft. Fewer than 10 workshops in the entire world are capable of producing these bronze giants. The intricate process takes 3 months to complete. 2 sand molds are made, one forming the bell's inner void, and the other defining its outer shape. Molten bronze is poured into the space between them. When it cools, the bell is finished. It all begins with the external mold, which starts with the assembly of the master pattern, often called the false bell. This reusable template defines the standard profile of the bell. While it already carries common traditional motifs, the true uniqueness of each piece comes from the custom engravings added next, made to meet the specific requests of the temple who commissions the bell. To prepare the surface for these thousands of new symbols, they coat the entire structure in a dark, viscous wax. One by one, craftsmen cut the characters by hand. In this case, the large characters declare the temple's name. Alongside them runs a Zen verse, a prayer of non-attachment meant to spread the Buddha's teachings each time the bell is struck. Finally comes the true test of patience, the donor grid. These thousands of tiny green characters represent the names of every person who funded the creation of the bell, alongside their personal prayers, specific wishes for health or fortune. The precision here must be absolute. Since this pattern dictates the final shape, any error here will be transferred directly to the bronze, becoming a permanent mistake. To finish, they apply a coat of white industrial wax. This seals the details and ensures a clean release when the pattern is extracted later. With the master pattern complete, it is ready to serve as the foundation for the mold. The false bell with the engraved designs forms the base. A steel casing will be placed on top and filled with sand, pressing the design into place. The false bell will then be removed, leaving behind the external mold that will shape the bell's exterior. The massive steel casing, known as a flask, is lowered over the pattern. It surrounds the form, leaving a gap between the steel wall and the delicate wax art. They mix dry sand with a liquid resin binder. This creates a chemical reaction, hardening the sand and ensuring it holds its shape when the false bell is removed. Beyond the physical labor, there is a strict chemical timeline at play. The resin binder has a working life of just 20 minutes. To ensure the mold becomes a solid block, each new layer must be added, while the one beneath it is still reactive. This continuous packing prevents cold joints, parts where the sand fails to fuse. The team must work quickly, shoveling the sand into the void. But there is a hidden engineering contradiction here. The sand mold must be hard and solid to hold the weight, but porous enough to breathe. When the hot bronze strikes the resin, it instantly releases gas. The sand must allow these fumes to escape outward. If packed too tightly, the gas will go into the metal, creating trapped bubbles that would ruin the bell's tone. These side tunnels are often called runners. They are the arteries of the casting. The molten bronze will travel down these tunnels, entering the mold from the very bottom. This bottom fill technique is critical. If the metal were dropped from the top, it would splash, trapping air bubbles. By feeding it from below, the liquid bronze rises, gently filling the cavity like water in a bathtub, without a single ripple. The race against the resin continues. As the bottom section sets, they immediately stack the next steel ring to begin the second level. They must pack this upper story immediately to lock it to the base. By the time they finish, they will have manually compacted over 5 tons of sand into the casing. And here is the brutal reality of this process. This massive structure is for one single use. Unlike factory molds, which are reused thousands of times, this sand fortress will survive exactly one pour. To release the bell, every inch of this sand wall will be destroyed. 5 tons of precise engineering, built for one day of work. Finally, a dusting of black graphite powder acts as a non-stick seal for the heavy steel lid. This ensures the cap doesn't weld itself to the casing when the liquid bronze rises to the top. Artisans can now focus on the crown of the bell, the Yongnu, or dragon loop. This intricate hook is the only thing that will hold the bell's entire 5-ton weight. While the massive bell body is cast in sand, the complex crown requires the precision of the lost wax process. It begins as a wax sculpture, which is coated in ceramic slurry to build a rock-hard skin. The mold is then fired to melt the wax away, leaving a hollow, heat-resistant cavity inside. This empty shell is now the perfect vessel to capture every detail of the original wax dragon. Because the ceramic mold is fragile, they pack sand and jagged rocks to act like a support wall, preventing the heavy liquid metal from bursting the mold. At the same time, the rocks create a porous network, giving the steam and hot air a direct path to escape. This keeps the mold strong while letting it breathe, ensuring a perfect finish on the dragon's details. But why a dragon? This isn't just a decoration. In Korean legend, this creature is Por-o, a small dragon who lives in the sea, and he is famously terrified of whales. That is why the wooden striker is often carved in the shape of a whale. When the whale strikes, the dragon screams, giving the bell its legendary sound. After a day of frantic labor, the sand is finally packed and fully hardened. They hoist the crown to inspect the dragon mold for any trapped debris inside, which could ruin the final casting. As the team flips the flask 180 degrees, the mold withstands the turn. The sand resin worked perfectly. Inside, every scale of the dragon is preserved, ready for casting. Now, the false bell pattern must be removed to reveal the sand mold. A worker steps inside the flask to dismantle the pattern. Using ratchet straps, he carefully pulls them inward, away from the sand walls. The separation must be flawless. If the panels drag against the sand, it will smear the delicate inscriptions stamped into the mold. Any imperfection will be immortalized in bronze. Some of the wax inscriptions didn't come off with the pattern. They are still embedded deep in the sand walls. Using needlepoint tools, the craftsmen carefully pick the wax characters out of the mold, one by one. The outer mold is complete. Now, it's time to prepare the void of the bell, the inner mold. This core defines the bell's internal geometry and, most importantly, its sound. The benchmark is unforgiving. When struck, a master bell must ring for a full minute. If the sound fades in less than 30 seconds, the bell is considered scrap metal. To guarantee that precision, the inner mold requires a stable foundation. This steel frame will soon be buried under tons of clay to shape the mold. This mesh will allow the mix to physically lock onto the skeleton. The process of making traditional Buddhist bells hasn't changed in a millennium, and its goal is still the same: longevity. These bells are designed to withstand constant striking for over 1,000 years. To survive that timeline, This core must be an unyielding foundation. Workers use a specialized blend of sand and clay formulated to withstand extreme heat. Unlike the resin used before, the core uses a traditional wet clay mixture. Resin would harden too fast for this massive shape. The clay allows them to pack the structure densely, without racing against time. Curved metal panels are brought in to encase the main structure, forming a circular core. They act as formwork, holding the sand and clay as it is added to the framework. The work is manual and demanding. With the sheets locked in place, the core is built up, layer by layer. Compacting the clay is vital. A single soft spot in the mold creates a fatal weakness, one that could cause it to collapse, crushed by the weight of tons of molten bronze. Workers repeat the process for the upper layers, gradually building the form to its 6 feet height. Moisture levels in the mixture are closely controlled. Too wet, and it won't dry. Too dry, and it won't bond to the mesh. Once compact and even, they dig a central tunnel, creating a chimney designed to house burning charcoal. This central heat source will warm the thick walls from within, ensuring the hot charcoal slowly dries and hardens the structure, driving out every trace of moisture. The panels come away, revealing the hollow framework. With these, we move on to the next phase of the process, smoothing and shaping the inner mold. The bulk of the excess is shaved away by hand using shovels. This prepares the mold for a metal guide, known as a sweep board, which will carve the final surface with fractional precision. This manual excavation creates a channel, ensuring the heavy profile can slide into position. Workers anchor the steel sweep to the central pivot, ensuring there is no room for deviation. It functions like a giant compass. As the team rotates it by hand, the steel edge scrapes against the clay, forcing the rough earth into a perfect circle. This is not a mass production line. Almost every step is done entirely by hand. This workshop casts only 2 of these giant bells a year, and each one of them is a unique custom commission ordered by specific temples. But before it becomes a bronze giant, this core must be flawless. While the mold looks solid, it is still made of compressed earth. These nails act as internal anchors, preventing it from cracking under its own weight before it is fully fired. Removing the guide requires surgical precision. One slip of the heavy steel would scar the perfect mold, forcing a complete restart. With the form sculpted, the core enters its final phase, igniting charcoal and lowering it into the hollow center of the mold. This part of the process is essential. The mold must be moisture-free. If any water remained trapped inside, it would instantly turn to steam when the molten metal hits, causing a violent explosion. Workers load nearly 100 pounds of charcoal into the central shaft. The fire must burn without interruption for up to 48 hours, ensuring the mold will withstand the thermal shock of the molten bronze. After baking, they will seal the opening and coat the core in graphite. This creates a smooth, non-stick shield, preventing the molten bronze from fusing with the clay. After 2 days of curing the inner mold, the wait is over. The process reaches its most critical turning point. The massive outer mold is slowly lowered over the inner core. The team must ensure the mold sits perfectly dead center. A fraction of an inch off, and the bell's sound will be ruined. The gap between them is the exact space the bronze will fill, called the negative of the bell. Finally, the crown, containing the dragon, is lowered to seal the top, fitted with 2 large channels to guide the molten bronze. With the top part of the flask bolted in place, the structure is complete. The molds are finally ready for the fire. Furnaces are ignited, and the heat quickly intensifies. To withstand these conditions, the team suits up in aluminized protective gear. The bell metal alloy, a precise blend of copper and tin, is heated until it becomes fully molten. As the metal liquefies, impurities rise to the surface and are skimmed away, ensuring only clean bronze remains. The molten metal is transferred to the pouring vessels. This step gives one last chance to any remaining dirty impurities to float to the top and also evens out temperatures. This ensures that what goes into the mold is a smooth and clean stream of liquid bronze. When the alloy reaches temperatures of around 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit, it is ready. The 2 large vessels are brought to the pit where the bell mold awaits. Now, every second counts. The team must maintain a continuous, even flow to prevent air pockets. Finally, molten bronze rises to the upper rim, signaling that the mold is completely filled. After a week, the metal has cooled down, and the structure is finally safe to open. The extreme heat of the molten bronze has cooked the chemical binders, baking the sand into a rock-solid mass. With the casing loosened, the structure is hoisted, revealing the majestic surface of the cast bell for the very first time. The pouring channels, which fed the liquid metal into the mold, have solidified into thick vertical bars. The bell is surrounded by a gray coat of burnt sand, but under this ashy layer, the sacred designs are perfectly preserved. To reveal the gleaming bronze underneath, the team must strip away this rough outer skin. But before that, they need to remove the inner mold. The massive core is now trapped inside the bronze walls, turned into solid stone by the heat. They start chipping away the hardened sand, using industrial demolition hammers. To dislodge the rest of the inner core, they need a different approach. They chain it to the heavy top flask filled with sand and rocks, adding downward weight. Using the same principle that will later set the bell in motion, their plan is to strike it forcefully with a massive wooden log. Under the shock, the friction breaks. The bell is finally freed, but not finished yet. The next and last phase is intensive polishing. First, they remove the burned sand left by the extreme temperatures. Using grinders, they expose the fresh bronze underneath. Artisans meticulously refine the intricate inscriptions, restoring the clarity and sharpness of every symbol. What emerges is more than a polished object. It is a perfectly tuned instrument, a 5-ton masterpiece of metallurgy, ready to ring for a millennium. After 3 months of relentless labor and precise engineering, the manufacturing journey reaches its final destination. The 5-ton bell is installed in its permanent home, a Korean mountain temple. Western bells are built for high towers, ensuring the sound travels for miles. But this bell is not meant to be an alarm, but a prayer. Intended to physically vibrate the ground beneath the listener's feet. That's why it is housed in a low, open pavilion called a jongak. Before installing, the bronze was treated with a dark chemical finish, known as a patina. This dark seal locks out the oxygen, preserving the metal underneath. The final component is added, the dangmak, the wooden striker representing a whale, used to ring the bell. The masterpiece is finished. Long after the hands that made it are gone, this giant will still be singing their legacy.